So welcome to my new series of supplementary reviews. These reviews are going to stick with a designated theme and generally be shorter and more to the point. In addition, these reviews are also meant to sustain a steady flow of content to my channel. Projects like the Walking Dead review are a burnout affair. So as a way to take time out and recharge my brain, but still be productive, I'll be working on these quick little ditties. Did it sound like I said titties? Who cares?
Oh my god, you guys, this is like the worst movie ever.
Christ alive, do people fucking hate this movie. It's not only that they don't prefer it to its predecessors, most people, fans of the Alien franchise or not, absolutely detest this film. Both critics and audiences trashed it upon release, citing reasons such as its oppressive tone, unidentifiable characters, indistinct shooting locations, muddled narrative structure, and ineffectual special effects. Now, I don't exactly disagree with some of these assertions. The tone and identification issues are a matter of taste and level of patient observance rather than an objective flaw. The other issues, however, are certainly present. Alien 3 is not a great movie. It's got some big problems. But I, for one, think it is at least a good movie. So let's get into it. As I just stated, tone is subjective. Alien 3 was striving for a depressing and moody tone.
Fuck my life.
Alien 3 was director David Fincher's first feature film, and if you're not familiar with David Fincher, he went on to direct Seven, Fight Club, Zodiac, and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, among others. All of these films have a signature grit and mood that are uniquely Fincher's vision.
He's alive! He's alive! The cocksucker's alive! Stop breathing! Hands down! Emergency on that ambulance!
Alien 3 started it all. There's a plethora of really nasty and even mean-spirited set pieces in this movie. There's a dog that paces around whimpering and then it explodes. There's an autopsy of a 10-year-old girl who looks shockingly dead. I mean, look at her. She's super fucking dead. Character deaths are all very gory and visceral. There's an attempted rape. The film takes place on an isolated prison complex. Everything is dirty, grimy, gloomy, and the facility is in a state of decay. Everybody is bald because of a pervasive lice problem. Everyone is also kind of a dick.
No climate control, no video system, no surveillance, no freezers, no fucking ice cream, no rubbers, no women, no guns. All we got here is shit. Oh, what the hell are we even talking to her for? She's the one that brought the fucker. Why don't we just get her head and shove it through that fucking wall?
There's one guy who's sort of friendly and somewhat likable as far as disillusioned and pretentious Englishmen go, but he dies the exact moment he establishes a rapport with the audience.
You guys came. Who wants the grand tour?
It's a fucked up movie, but this isn't inherently bad because that's exactly what the film is going for. In addition to being a horror film, Alien 3 is actually a fairly complex character study. To put a finer point on it, it's a tragedy. A story that concludes a lifetime of hardship with the ultimate sacrifice. The life of Ellen Ripley for all that she's fought so hard for. The extermination of the titular alien race. Before I go any further, I need to provide some backstory in regards to the previous film in the series, Aliens. Aliens was an action film with a core of emotion provided by the main characters of Ellen Ripley, Colonial Marine Corporal Hicks, and an orphan girl named Newt. That film gave us likable characters who cared for one another and managed to survive the events of that film due to their investment in each other as much as anything else. The takeaway here is that the movie ends on a very optimistic, good feels kind of vibe, with themes like camaraderie and sympathy helping to achieve victory for the protagonists. Alien 3 not only undoes the ending of that film, but it smashes that optimism to fucking pieces a quarter of the way through the opening credits, like an uppercut to the gut. Hicks and Newt both die while crash landing on planet Fiorina 161, the setting for the film. From the outset of the film, Ripley was traumatized and alienated. So, it makes sense for the audience to feel the same way, right? Like it or not, that's an effective way of pulling the audience into the story. We need to identify with the character of Ellen Ripley. That way we have an emotional investment in what's happening to her. Hicks and Newt aren't there to back her up, so the audience needs to serve as a surrogate for those feelings of concern. As the audience, we know Ripley, whereas the rest of the characters do not. Aliens and Alien 3 both execute this concept very well, just in vastly different ways. Again, for some people it's a matter of taste. I just don't think people need to get so invested in fictional characters that they should flat out pan and reject something because of that. If you're watching a movie about a savage alien creature that mutilates people, maybe don't get your knickers in a knot when people die. If you didn't like the people that die, there would be no point. It would be fucking boring.
Motherfucker! Come on! Come on! Get it, baby! Come on! Come on! Come on, you bastard! Come on, you too! Oh, you want some of that? Fuck you! Fuck you!
Refer to any mid to late 80s slasher horror film to understand my point. I, for one, enjoy it when horror movies convey their implied goal, to horrify. I don't want my eyes to glaze over and start scrolling through the adult classifieds on Milwaukee Backpage 10 minutes into the movie because I don't care about what's happening. Another problem people have with this film is an issue of sameness. The film was shot in England for tax purposes or cheaper production costs, I don't remember which. As such, the entire cast all have British accents.
As some of you know, a 337 model EEV crash landed here at 0600 on the morning watch.
Save for like 3 to 5 people. To add to that, they're all bald because of that lice problem. They all have tattoos on the back of their neck, and they all dress in uniform, relatively similar to each other. The first time you watch this movie, it's difficult to tell who's who, but I like that. It feels authentic, real. It also forced me to focus on the little things about the characters. You start to see noticeable visual cues to their identity. Things such as jewelry, tattoos, bandages. From there, you begin to notice their personalities, how they speak to each other.
That the way you feel about it?
Yeah. The guy's crazy and he smells bad. I ain't going out with him anymore.
You got anything to say for yourself?
Their mannerisms, quirks, how they handle themselves under pressure. This problem helped me notice so many small nuances about these people. All you have to do is pay attention. Most mainstream audiences found it frustrating. Critics thought it was unconventional as well, but from my perspective, the character's appearance and speech wasn't a detriment to the film. It's like all the other positive instances contained in this movie. It's one of those movies that gets better the more you watch it. It has layers of discovery. The same can't be said for the indiscernible layout of the prison compound. There is a particular chase scene toward the end of the film that has the characters running around a labyrinth of dusty brick corridors in an attempt to corral and trap the alien. It's a fun scene, and it is well paced and occasionally tense, but every corridor looks identical. There's no way of knowing what point the characters are running to or running from. No frame of reference is given. The audience has no compass here, and it makes the scene kind of confusing. Since it's a good scene, I don't feel that it's much of a deal breaker, though. It's only a minor issue. There are a couple of big issues, though. Ones that I can't ignore. One is the disarranged narrative. A lot of scenes in this film were cut out, not like little scene trims here and there. While there is that, there's an entire 20 plus minute section of the film that was scrapped. An entire subplot right in the middle of the movie, with valuable context and character development, as well as even character deaths were cut from this movie. 1 minute there's like 18 characters in the mix, and then there's an explosion, some fire. All of a sudden there's like 10 people left. The way they edited this sequence out was some Bush League bullshit. It's so disjointed it's obvious. When the film picks up after the cuts, my brain tried to reorient itself in relation to the story multiple times over the first 10 or so minutes. This was a colossal fuck up. It's a damn shame, too, because the cut footage helped flesh out characters that were in dire need of distinction.
Most of that stuff has disappeared, I think. I've had friends say, in fact, we saw you in one scene and then you kind of disappear. Nobody knows quite where you disappear to, which is a bit of a mistake.
I don't know who's at fault for this. Maybe the director, David Fincher, changed his mind at the last minute. Maybe the studio stepped in with the usual questionable changes for arbitrary reasons. Maybe the scene was dropped in favor of reshoots that Fincher never ended up doing due to being fed up with creative interference from 20th Century Fox and the producers. It's not clear. There is, however, an insightful documentary on the making of Alien 3 called Wreckage and Rage. It's a self-aware and straight-up look into the tumultuous production of the film. The documentary has been included with most home video releases for the film, so check it out if you're still curious. Lastly, people didn't like the effects in the film. I really don't have much to say about it, other than that it just doesn't look right. The close-ups of the alien look as good as ever because it's either a suit or a headpiece or a physical prop. The special effects team at work on Alien 3 were Stan Winston Studio alumni, Alec Gillis and Tom Woodruff Jr., owners of Amalgamated Dynamics. Although they were able to nail most of the practical effects, all of the rest of the creature effects look like dog shit.
Oh yeah, that's gonna work.
It was so silly looking. I mean, it was the dailies were like you were on the floor because they were so stupid looking. I mean, once in a while you do something like that it's just so dumb. I mean,
the film came out in 1992, so computer-generated effects were in their infancy. Probably too expensive for this film to present properly. The rod puppet they use looks goofy, the matting is poorly done. Hasty lighting and composite work, maybe? I don't know. I'm not an effects guy. All I know is that it looks retarded ass and it breaks my immersion every fucking time. There is one important aspect of this film that helps to elevate the material that isn't a counterpoint of mine. Alien 3 has an excellent musical score. The film has some deep bass tones during key moments to emphasize discomfort, and everything works very well. Enough to at least furrow your brows. Aside from that, the score itself is an orchestral and choral masterpiece. It conveys all the themes and emotions that the director had intended. Sorrow, mystery, wonder, longing, fear, discomfort, rage. It's all there. It's actually one of the strongest, most coherent and consistent elements of the entire film. Possibly one of my top 20 soundtracks of all time. After having said all that, I need to make an important point. As of 2003, there are two versions of Alien 3. There is the theatrical cut, and a restored version with the missing footage and extended and alternate scenes called the Assembly Cut. Whether you plan to revisit this movie or are seeing it for the first time, I recommend that you skip the theatrical version. The only scene that works better in the theatrical release is the one where the alien bursts out of the dog, as opposed to the deceased ox. It's awfully upsetting, and it makes me really uncomfortable. It's effective, dead ass. Recall what I said about horror. But some people might not actually be able to handle that scene. The mere idea of a dead dog can put a person in a funk for the better part of a day, so I still maintain that the assembly cut is the ideal cut of the film. It restores that important subplot, and is the primary reason that I feel compelled to stick up for this movie in this review. If you still hate it, you might be kind of pissed though, since it's just going to be the same miserable experience, just longer. But at least you tried, sport.
I got the job!
Yay, Dad! We knew you could do it!
So yeah, that's my bit. I've said my piece on Alien 3, a film I consider to be an underrated gem. A film that was done a major disservice by its producers at 20th Century Fox. Producers who wanted an atmospheric and original horror film, but couldn't decide between the creative direction of a visionary director and the fickle propensities of American audiences. Alien 3 is one of many rejected, discarded films that I will be challenging you to reevaluate. It is far from what most people think, and it is definitely not one of the worst movies ever made.